Hey everyone, it's Baby Bear, and this is C5 Continent that is presenting all about monsters. Here is the code for Aptoid. I thought today was the last day, but apparently it's still working, so keep using it. And we've got some presenters, Psy41, and he's in a server with another K45. So if you didn't know about this K45, he is, I guess, a new one. And then we have Gator here, and they are all in this server together, and they were helping with the presentation on monsters. Now, why is it that we're listening to just, random people talking about monsters? Well, they have spreadsheets that they make and they post it in some continents and really study the mechanics about monsters. So, definitely, I'm going to try to overlay the Excel sheets to this kind of seminar type thing so that you guys can see the value in what people do on this game. Like there's just so many smart people that really use their brain where I'm like, wow, I can't believe they just did a whole spreadsheet on monster debuffs, you know? So I'm gonna link that and link to the C5, and you can get that information from the C5 Discord. And don't forget to join the official Aptoid Discord. That is going to hook you up with giveaways and all the bonus news, so make sure you sign up for that. There's a giveaway going on right now, so check it out in my YouTube channel or just join the Aptoid Discord and you're going to see all about it and you're going to see everybody entering, and it's just a lot of fun. Thanks so much to C5, and thank you, Anya, for hosting this every week. Thanks for all the speakers, and we have another one tomorrow about rallying, so hopefully I'll see you guys there, and enjoy. I'll see you soon.
And coming to the mechanics, I wanted to talk about the Excel that I had shared earlier. So you might have received the Excel link from Ananya. Um, Basically, what you do here is you give the approximate buffs that you have, you give the amount of troops that you have, and you get kind of like an estimated number of wounded. To start with things, let's talk about a few things that we hear quite often. Number one, I think Cesar and um, Gator, you have heard a lot of times that joining a rally with a ground troop causes more wounded, or joining with anything other than mounted troop causes a lot of wounded. Let's just get that over with. It's kind of like a bandit at this point of time.
Yeah,
It
that's an
does
old one.
not.
It's an
Yeah,
old one.
it's a very old rumor. I don't know how that got spread, but it does not. You might see differences in wounded, but that's not because of the troop type. That's because what your general is wearing. So when you run consecutive rallies, you might have your family accounts. I'm going to say family accounts in case someone is joining and deciding to send clips to Evony. I'm not going to say the other word. So if you have family accounts and they join with some generals with dragon gear and some generals without dragon gear, that makes a difference of 10% of debuffs. So the difference that you see is not because of the troop type, it's because of the general. So let's just get that over with. It doesn't impact whether you join with one ground troop, whether you join with one mounted troop, whether you join with one archer troop, and whether you join with one siege troop. It doesn't matter. In terms of PVE boss, the ordering goes as this. And this is in regards to multiple testing that I have done. Siege will always attack first, no matter what, followed by with ground troops, followed by with archer troops, and finally, sorry, siege, ground, mounted, and then archer. So if you have sent a siege troop, one siege troop, it is going to get mostly wounded because let's be honest, maybe players like Wonky decides to rally bosses with siege because he has so much high siege HP. But other than that, no
Ty,
one is going to do. Can you hear me?
Do Wonky have anything other than Siege, you think?
I mean, he has, but I have seen his siege reports. Like, that's just crazy siege HP. Like, he can probably kill a Warlord 6 with siege if he wants.
Sure.
But siege troops are the one that's going to first attack your boss. Once the siege troops are done, then it's going to follow with ground troops. Then it's going to follow with mounted troops, and then it's going to follow with archer troops. So you can send any single troop you want, and you are going to get wounded or not wounded based on the main rally setter troops. So let's take an example. Let's say the main rally setter sets with mounted troops, 3 million troops, whatever buffs. You send a ground troop. What is going to happen is that the ground troop is going to attack first. Since you send a single ground troop, it's going to get wounded no matter what, because the ground troops attack first. And then the mounted troops is going to do whatever. Uh, and then the rally setter gets whatever wounded based on debuffs and buffs. Let's take another example that the rally setter, which I often do, is setting a rally with ground troops. Now, we still don't have a concrete way of knowing which of the rally participants go first. That's kind of like a round robin and random. So your troops might go first, it might not go first. So people who are accustomed sending one ground troop without general in their family accounts, when I say family accounts within double quotes, I know what you mean, and you know what I mean. You might see some ground troops walking all the way 10 minutes. That's mostly happens when the rally setters set a rally with ground troops. So ground troops have all the same priority. The rally setter might go first, you might go first. It just depends. But a TLDR is whatever troop you send does not impact the wounded on rally setter. And this has been, I would say, the excel that I shared with others, and Ananya might have shared in the C5 group chat. You can very well run that multiple times. You can very well see that the troop type that you send does not impact that. I think that's pretty much in accordance with Cesar and Cater as well, unless you have different thoughts.
No, I think you covered the basics side for troop types. Yeah, for sure.
Gator?
Yeah, I can't think of anything I would disagree with there.
By the way, Gator, congratulations for your K42.
Oh,
I know.
thank you.
I just logged in a few minutes earlier back and I saw it's K42. I'm like, well, I'm not going to be going that way. Like, it's possible for me. So congratulations on that.
I told myself I wasn't going to get into the rat race when they opened up K45, and I guess it was all talk.
You're doomed like the rest of us. And
Yeah.
thank God for family members, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I remember back when I started, and one of the biggest mistakes I made, just because I felt obligated to continue to help others build and whatnot, and I enjoy helping others. I was taking on a lot of wounded when I was leading rallies, and if there's something I could go back and say, maybe I would have tweaked that a little bit better, or just rallied what I could handle without the wounded, because the RSS, the resources, right? The resources are, and the speeds are important. Every single speed in this game is important. So if you're leading rallies for your alliance, keep in mind, try to keep it limited to where you can hit without getting wounded. And if you do get wounded, keep them very, very limited so you can continue your growth as well.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point, Gator, you're bringing up. I remember in our alliance we did much the same. And also, just to add to that, I think each alliance should consider who is going to be the dedicated monster hunters, if you will. And don't everybody build cabs, right? Because I think the best is to have some dedicated monster runners, boss runners, and then the rest can focus on PvP, right?
Yeah.
I don't know,
For
Sai,
sure.
what you feel, Sai.
Right. So the first thing I want to talk about, and please let me know in the chat. Think I'm in the right chat that I'm saying. I see questions. Sport Hunter is needed. Now we have one K45 who just unlocked T16. I can just imagine how difficult it was for him to unlock T16s. Money wise, you can talk about effort wise. I'm trying my best to help him. I am a K40 who just unlocked K40 like 1 month prior. I just have Siege HP defense in the military academy and Mars sides, and mounted HP defense done on MA military academy 5. But I can kill up to B19. If you ask me, the wounded that I get on B19 is uh, around 60,000 D14s, but I can kill. So, first things first, do not be ashamed to be a boss hunter. If you're a boss hunter, you're a boss hunter. It's an immense sense of responsibility to be a boss hunter. There is no shame in that. Do not let anyone, even your K45s, or if tomorrow there is K50, do not let your K50s take away that feeling from you. Boss hunters are extremely important. Without rallying, you're not going to get anything. I mean, anything else, you just have to spend money. That's the first order of business. That if you're a boss hunter,
Absolutely.
you're a boss hunter. There is no shame in that. Which
That's
means you
fun.
probably have, yeah, which means you probably have more mounted. You just have to be a little bit careful while you're doing PvP. That's it. Like, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, sure. And
Yeah.
it's good points, I think, because a good alliance, I think, should be rallying bosses and monsters 24/7. It's extremely helpful, obviously, for every in your alliance to get all the loot from bosses and monsters. So it's a very good point, and I think every alliance needs a few very good ones, at least. So good points. And Sai, just to keep it on track, related to this event. You brought up, I think, the basics of joining rallies and gear and so forth. We have a few questions in the chat related to debuffs. You will get to debuffs, Sai, or do you have anything else before that?
I can jump onto debuffs. I have been seeing the questions as well that how do debuffs work? Now, there are a bit of contradicting information. When I say contradicting information, is what I mean is, uh, first of all, let me get one thing out aside. I know that Rastap talked about World Boss. I might cover that topic at the very end because World Boss is something that I haven't tested a lot. But let's talk about debuffs. Your gear. So you know that we have a huge set of debuffs coming from Runic bracers. That is always going to stack. Anything that comes from directly gear is going to stack. So the most interesting debuff that you can get for bosses are monster defense debuff. It is extremely important. And I can give you a very brief overview, which I have tested, is 7% of monster defense debuff is almost equivalent to 200% mounted attack buff. Can you imagine the amount of time it's going to take you to get 200% mounted attack debuff? I mean, it's monumental. So 7% debuff monster defense is almost equivalent to 200% mounted attack debuff. Now, coming to the exact debuff equations, as of now, what I have tested is how this is worked. Anything that is on your primary general stacks. Anything that is on your assistant general or on the rally joiner depends. What do I mean by that? Let's say I'm going to give my example. I have a big boss runner, which is Napoleon Prime and Andre Macedina. Andre Macedina being the assistant. Napoleon Prime has a Rurik braces of 35%. I don't have the dragon gear. Now, 35% Rurik bracer, which is basically 5-star Rurik bracer, that is always going to stack with everything. A gear direct buff or debuff is going to stack with everything. There is no question about that. What is going to change is the set bonus versus skill is what is going to change. What do I mean by that? Let's say you are setting a rally with Napoleon Prime and Andre Macedina. So Napoleon has, let's say, Rurik Bracer with 35% debuff. That 35% monster defense debuff is always going to stack with everyone. That's just given because it's a direct gear debuff that's going to stack. So you keep that aside. 35% you have received. Now, Andre Macedina, if you have enough Covenant, you get an 8% monster debuff, right? So there is an 8%. Let's say you have a rally joiner, which gives you, who has a dragon gear set of 10%. Now, this is somewhat I have seen, and I would be able to give more evidence as I test more. But from the preliminary tests that I have done, a gear bonus versus skill, the best is going to be taken. So if you have a rally joiner, a family account joining with the Dragon Gear set bonus, what does the Dragon Gear set bonus give you? It gives you a 10% attack debuff and a 10% monster debuff. Andre Macedina gives you an 8% monster defense debuff. They are not going to stack together. It's not going to be 10 plus 8 equal to 18. It's going to be the best of 10 and 8, which is 10%. If you have them all stacked on the same general, they're going to stack. It's kind of like how your PvP rallies work, which is it's always going to be the best of a debuff. I think that's what most people wrote in the chat, that your debuffs work best. If you have all of them stacked on top of the main general, they do stack. So let's say you have Sanada, which gives you a 5% debuff. You have a dragon gear on it. It gives you another 10%, that makes it 15%. But as soon as you take an assistant general, that will start changing. Now, I know I probably am speaking a bit fast, but in terms of using the Excel that I gave, you can play around with that, and that is what I have been doing. Is what I have noticed is it rarely stacks. So either you're going to get 8% Andre, or you're going to get 10% of the dragon set. It's never 18% that I get stacked. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm going to ask Gator or Cesar if that makes sense. Basically, what I'm trying to say is When you have a rally joiner or when you have an assistant general, they no longer stack. It's always coming down to the best of the debuffs.
Yeah, Sai, I think me not being any expert at all on monster hunting, but from what I heard and what I've talked with the others about this, I think what you're saying makes perfect sense. Just to sum up what you're saying is that for gear on the rally setter, it do stack any buffs, debuffs you have on the gear for the main setter, as is for the main general, and then for the joiners, when you have debuff generals, they do not stack most likely. I mean, that's the short version, right?
Right. For rally joiners or for assistant generals, it's going to be the best of the debuffs. So let's quickly take a very small example. Sanada has a spec 1 of 15% monster attack debuff, right? Same thing for that lady with blonde hair, like curly blonde hair. I forgot her name. I completely forgot her name. What was her name? Yeah, I completely forgot. Sorry. Basically, the monster hunter lady. I think
Aethelflaed, yeah.
Yes. Thank you for that. So she has blonde hair, curly hair, and she also has a 15% monster attack debuff. So when you join with her first spec as fully spec'd, you're going to notice very curious results. When you put these formula, like this data into the formula that I have shared in the Excel, you're going to see that either the monster attack debuff is 15%, or it's going to be 10%, or it's going to be 0%. It's never 25%. What does that mean? That it means that the dragon set and the spec 1 do not stack. They are of the same category. So the best is going to be taken. Now, how do I know that the best is taken? Because obviously I'm running a rally. I have the report with me. I can see 143 wounded. Now I'm trying to put that into the Excel formula and I'm seeing something else. Then I change the input variables. Like, let me check how much wounded I get with 15% monster attack debuff. And then I say, oh, it's matching. That's how I have verified. So when it comes to debuffs, I can pretty much tell you that whatever you have on your main general, everything stacks. Whether it's gear, whether it's gear bonus, whether it's skill, everything stacks. But as soon as it goes onto your assistant general and your rally joiners, it starts taking the best. And this is something that we have in common for PvP as well. Of course, it's not confirmed yet, but if you talk about the rumors, or I would say the unconfirmed theories of PvP, it mostly talks about the debuffs being the best of all the rally joiners. And that is what exactly happens in PvE as well. There are only two kinds of debuffs, which is monster defense debuff and monster attack. There is no monster HP debuff at all right now in the game. So you are going to see the best of them being taken into consideration. So it kind of makes sometimes selecting Andre Macedina obsolete if your alliance have every family accounts, every single general of them geared with dragon gear, because Andre Macedina gives 8%, dragon gear gives 10%. If every one account is with dragon gear, then you're always going to get 10%. So Andre Macedina kind of becomes obsolete for monster defense debuff. But let's be honest, if you have Andre Macedina fully spect and fully covenant, you're going to get much more buffs out of it instead of debuffs. So I wanted to kind of get that out in the uh, meeting, because I do see that people are talking about debuffs, how they work. So in very simple, TLDR is the best of debuffs take place. Anything that is on your main general stacks, anything that is on your assistant general plus your rally joiners, the best of it is taken into place.
Yes, and Sai, just to follow up, I see in the chat that there was a question here related to the joiners. If the joiner assistant debuffs adds up was the question, and I think you answered it because whatever the joiners join the rally with is not gonna stack, right?
That is correct. Joiners I have seen as of now, I have done a lot of testing, especially for Warlord and Witches, because I really wanted to get zero wounded. Okay, I really wanted to do zero wounded rallies in absence of RK45. So I have done a lot of testing. They do not stack. Joiners never stack. It's always the best of joiners. So you might have a Sanada and an Aetherfield is just going to take the best out of them. Like if they add up to 15% and your gear is 10%, it's just going to take 15% as the highest. And
Yeah,
that is something you can also test in your in the Excel link that I shared, and I will probably share again in the Excel once this meeting is done. You can keep playing with the debuffs, but you're going to see either is going to be 5% debuff or 10% debuff or 15% debuff that's going to match up with your exact number of woundeds. That exactly tells me that they do not stack.
yeah. So, and also, Sai, I see, just to get it out maybe one more time, I see a few questions also in the chat related to what troops to join with. I guess they didn't listen in on the first first section of this event, but I think we said pretty clearly that it does not matter at all what troop you are sending to a rally for a joiner. You can use whatever you want, right?
Yeah, first things first, if anyone is complaining, if your R5 is complaining that, oh, you're joining with XYZ troop, you better look for another alliance. That's the first thing, okay? Because that R5 is dumb. I don't want to shit on anyone, but your troops doesn't impact anything at all in your joins. Now, what does impact is what kind of situation you want to happen. Do you want to immediately get wounded and not have a march back and you have enough gems? Then send a siege, because siege is going to always attack PVE bosses first. The order of attack for PVE bosses is siege, ground, mounted, archer. So if you want to send without a general and you want your troops to be wounded always so that they don't have to come back 5 minutes or whatever so you can join more rallies, send a siege. But then you have to have more gems because siege adds up to gems. If you don't want to send siege, send a ground. But then if the rally setter sets with a ground rally, you might get your troops alive and they might just start walking back for 10 minutes, which sometimes happens to me. Annoying, but it's kind of like you cannot help it. In
Yeah, and
TLDR version,
yeah. Sorry,
go ahead.
speak. No, speak, finish.
Yeah, I was just going to say TLDR version, your troops doesn't impact the number of wounded the rally setter have. If they're complaining to the point that they are losing their temper, I think it's best for you to look for another alliance, because that is just incorrect, because that your troops impact their wounded.